What's going on, guys? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and I'm back with another Xanathar's Guide to Everything / Unearthed Arcana comparison, subclass comparison video. This time we're talking about the Shadow Magic Sorcerer. This one, I gave my opinions on the Divine Soul yesterday, and I felt like it had a lot of turbulence as to what it was going to finally end up with, and went through, I think, the most iterations of any subclass, which was 4 with the final production from Xanathar's. It was originally Favored Soul, then it went through 2 iterations of Favored Soul since then, and then finally the final version of the Divine Soul. Shadow Magic, not so much, but I actually really like this one a lot. This may be one I find out myself playing, so let's take a look. So, this is one of the classes that got, like, sometimes in their Unearthed Arcana form, they received interesting little RP tidbits, and those made it into Xanathar's, but the weird thing is they didn't do that for every class. So they had these Shadow Magic quirks here, right? You got a D6, you blinked once last week, you're always icy cold, your heartbeat once per minute, and it surprises you, blah, blah, blah. I wish they did this kind of little RP factoids for every subclass. It would really help to flesh it out and, I don't know, just kind of make them all their own. But let's see what we get here. So at first level, we get Eyes of the Dark. At first level, you have dark vision to a range of 120 feet. When you reach 3rd level in this class, you learn the Darkness spell, which doesn't count against your number of sorcerer spells known. In addition, you can cast it by spending 2 sorcery points or by expending a spell slot. If you cast it with sorcery points, you can see through the darkness created by the spell. So this was first appeared in the Light Dark and Underdark. Unearthed Arcana, we can see the quirks remain the same, but originally Eyes of the Dark was dark vision to a range of 60 feet, and you can cast darkness by spending a sorcery point, and you can see through any darkness spell you cast using this ability. Alright, so the number one problem with the original version is you don't get sorcery points at level 1, you don't get them till level 2, so half of one of your level 1 abilities just didn't work, because you didn't have it. And dark vision to a range of 60 feet is useful, but if you're a class that already had dark vision to 60 feet, you didn't get any benefit. It didn't extend it. The fact that it gives you dark vision to 120 feet is great. If you're a drow or a superior dark vision underdark race, it doesn't do anything for you, but for the majority of races, this will be something beneficial to you. And it's been clarified now that you don't get darkness till you hit 3rd level in the class, and then you can use it to use your spell slots or sorcery points, and then the sorcery points gain the seeing through the magical darkness, which is just tightened up, just better all around. Strength of the Grave now is when your damage reduces you to 0 HP, you can make a Charisma save, DC 5 plus the damage taken. On a success, you drop to 1 hit point instead. You can't use this feature if you're reduced to 0 hit points by radiant damage or by a critical hit. After making these saving throws, you can't use this feature until you finish a long rest. Previously, it was whenever you make damage reduces you to 0 HP, you make a Constitution saving throw. So they changed it to Charisma, which is arguably better for you as a sorcerer. On a success, you drop to 1 hit point instead. You cannot use this if you are reduced to 0 hit points by ranged radiant damage or a critical hit. So it's sort of a weird trade-off. They went to Charisma versus Constitution, but in the Unearthed Arcana, it was unlimited. You could just keep doing it infinitely. So you could just, as many times as you wanted, just keep making that save, almost better than a Barbarian, because the DC didn't go up. So it was whenever damage takes you to 0 HP, you would make a con save, DC 5 plus the damage taken. If you made it, you dropped to 1 hit point, and you could just keep doing this. It wasn't limited to once per turn. It was just as whenever you wanted to do it, and it wasn't tied to a reaction. You just did it. Now, you can do that, but you can only do it once per long rest, which is arguably better, right? Like, that's more balanced for sure. It was kind of one of those little wonky things that I thought was going to make it through, that you would just be, like, super hard to kill. Sort of like a long death monk can just keep using key points to get back up. But all in all, I think it's probably useful, and the switch to Charisma save is a nice little touch. So, Hound of Ill-Omen, this was sort of the crux of your class. This did get a little bit of benefit, so let's take a look at it. So, as a bonus action, you can spend, this is at 6th level, as a bonus action, spend 3 sorcery points to magically summon a Hound of ill-omen to target one creature that you can see within 120 feet of you. The Hound uses direwolf statistics from the Monster Manual or the Player's Handbook with the following changes. The Hound is medium and not large, and it counts as a monstrosity, not a beast. It appears with a number of temporary hit points equal to half your sorcerer level, so at this point it would be 3. It can move through other creatures and objects as if it was difficult terrain. The Hound takes 5 force damage if it ends its turn inside an object. At the start of its turn, the Hound automatically knows its target's location. If the target was hidden, it is no longer hidden from the Hound. So we're going to come back, so let's just get that stuff out of the way first. So, it was a bonus action still. You spend 3 sorcery points to summon a Hound of ill-omen to target a creature you can see. It didn't have looks like it didn't have, let's see, the Hound appeared in an unoccupied space of your choice within 30 feet of the target. Now it is within, oh no, wait, it says that as well. So, but now you have to choose a target within 120 feet to summon it, rather than just, before it didn't have a limit where you could summon it to. So 3 sorcery points, still bonus action, still medium size. They say that specifically. It can move through objects as if they're difficult terrain, takes 5 force damage. At the start of its turn, the Hound automatically knows its target location. So that is basically the same. They did add the temporary hit points equal to half your sorcerer level. So then we've got down here, the Hound appears in an unoccupied space of your choice within 30 feet of the target. Roll initiative for the Hound. On its turn, it can move only towards its target by the most direct route and use its action only to attack its target. The Hound can make opportunity attacks, but only against its target. Additionally, while the Hound is within 5 feet of the target has disadvantage on saving throws against spells you cast. The Hound disappears if it is reduced to 0 hit points, if its target is reduced to 0 hit points, or after 5 minutes. So, Hound appears within 30 feet, space within 30 feet of the target. Roll initiative. It acts on your turn. It can move direct towards it. It can make opportunity attacks, but only against the target. Additionally, the target has disadvantage on all saving throws against your spells while the Hound is within 5 feet. And then again, it disappears if it's taken to 0, if its target's reduced to 0, or after 5 minutes. So the benefits really are... actually, the really only benefit is they gave it I thought they did more to it, but they gave it temporary hit points equal to half of your sorcerer level, which is not bad, right? That only gets better as you get better. And they did limit it to being within 120 feet of you. But hey, it's a bonus action to do it, and then it acts on its own turn, so that's nice to keep you still having your action to do things. Then at 14, we have Shadow Walk. When you are in dim light or darkness, as a bonus action, you can magically teleport up to 120 feet to an unoccupied space you can see that is also in dim light or darkness. And this was when you're in dim light or darkness, as a bonus action, you can teleport up to 120 feet. So that is basically the same. And then lastly, we have Umbral Form. You spend 6 sorcery points as a bonus action to magically transform yourself into a shadowy form. In this form, you have resistance to all damage except force and radiant, and you can move through other creatures and objects as if they were difficult terrain. You take 5 force damage if you end your turn inside an object. You remain in this form for 1 minute. It ends early if you are incapacitated, if you die, or if you dismiss it as a bonus action. This was previously called Shadow Form. You spend 3 sorcery points. In this form, you have resistance to all damage except force. You can move through other creatures and objects is difficult terrain. You take 5 force damage if you end your turn within an object, and this ends after 1 minute. So they upped this to 6 sorcery points. Was it a bonus action back then too? Yep, it was still a bonus action. So they doubled the sorcery point value. And they changed it that it's resistance to force and radiant. But that is pretty much it. It looks like it's pretty much the same. They said that it says if you're incapacitated, die, or dismiss, because previously, if you had gone incapacitated, you would still be in this form. It is non-concentration, so let's just do a quick overview of the class. The Dark Vision and this free darkness is a great ability. I mean, at your sorcery, you have limited spells. Anything that gets you additional spells is great. Free dark vision makes you be able to play a non-dark vision race and still get the benefits of that. Seeing through the magical darkness is also great. Basically a once per long rest pop up back to 1 HP is great. The Hound of Ill-Omen is something that's relatively minimal on your sorcery point cost, only 3 points. And that is just basically something to harrow your enemies, or at least a singular enemy, to do additional damage to them. It has Direwolf stats, so it has the ability to knock them prone. It also forces the enemy to have disadvantage on saving throws against your spells, which could be really big if you have a nice mind-controlling spell or something like that. Give them disadvantage. Shadow Walk, a free teleport that you can just do as a bonus action, a 120-foot teleport. Again, that's a bonus action. You do still have your movement after that if you really need to get away from something. An Umbral form, it's not super flashy, but it's 6 sorcery points, but it's basically a wonderful way to just be like, well, now I have resistance to pretty much all damage types. And there's nothing stopping you from casting spells while you're doing that, doing other things, commanding your Hound of Ill-Omen, spend 6 sorcery points, go into Umbral form, spend 3, cast your Hound of Ill-Omen, do all of these things, have resistance to damage while you sling spells. And it lets you move through objects and creatures, so you could, I think, theoretically, right, I think a wall is an object, right? You could go through walls, and as long as you get through the wall before your turn ends, you don't take the force damage. But even if you did, like, you could still use this as a way. It doesn't say that you're shunted out of the space. You can move through the wall, and if you take the damage while in the wall, you just keep going. So you have the opportunity to, like, basically phase through walls with no issue. I really like this class a lot. This subclass is a little bit different. I love pets as a general rule in RPGs. And the Hound of Ill-Omen is very reminiscent to me of the old Hexblade's Dark Companion, which was basically a lot of this, except if you pull out the ability to attack. That was the old Hexblade's ability, which I was hoping to see this, since there was sort of the Hound of Ill-Omen, or whatever it was for the original Hexblade. Arguably being able to summon a Spectre as a Hexblade, which we'll talk about when we get down there to Warlock, is way better. But the fact that, like, the old Hexblade's Dark Companion could grant, like, disadvantage, or not disadvantage, but grant a negative to people's saving throws in AC, it's sort of reminiscent here. So I really like the concept of running a Hexblade Sorcerer, and getting both and kind of being like my old Hexblade, which is a build that I would like to test out at some point. So anyway, guys, I'm starting to ramble, so I'm going to end this video now. Let me know what you think of the Shadow Magic Sorcerer. I think it pretty much got only benefits, other than, like I said, the constant coming back to life at level 1, which is a very powerful ability at level 1. And it never went away as you got higher. So let me know what you guys think of the Shadow Magic Sorcerer, and I will see you guys next time, where we go over a not new class, but a I guess another Xanathar's Guide to Sword Coast Adventures guide. This is the last one of that, where we review an old subclass that was reprinted in the Storm Sorcery Sorcerer. So anyway, guys, I will see you next time.